Hey everybody, Jedi Fife. Some of you may know me, some of you may not, but a lot of you that do know me as a Nike Mag fanatic. I love the shoe. Um, I was at the auction. I bought a pair of the real ones from 2011, but I bought them secondhand. Luckily, the guy had never worn them, and I've only tried them on. I've never worn them, but uh, you also know that when the Chinese knockoffs came out, I was one of the first ones to modify them, try to make them as close to the original as I can, just because I had the originals with me so I could compare and see what I could do better, different, just improve upon them. And for a while, I was modifying them. I had pairs that I wore. I made pairs for, I think I ended up doing maybe 24, 25 mods for people. I would charge a lot of money just because honestly I didn't really want to do the mod. It was kind of a pain in the ass and I don't need the money. It was more just kind of, I love the shoe and I'd done it and knew how to do it, and it's kind of fun to work on it every so often, but really I didn't really like doing it. Especially after doing so many pairs, I just got so burnt out on it that I had to turn down a lot of people. But a lot of you also know that I was one of the first people that would complain about Nike making these untouchable shoes. So I was a huge proponent of China, the knockoffs. I didn't even ever buy the Universal licensed releases ones just because they were horrible. I saw them in person. I modified one pair, and they were just terrible. So for the longest time, there's been rumors, hype about that eventually there's going to be what's called a V3, a version 3 knockoff. So there were the Mark Poons back in 2008 or maybe 2007. Those are the first pairs I would modify. I probably did 10 of those before they even got into the V2s, the version 2s, which are the ones you can kind of get now. Well, you used to be able to get them for AliExpress. The ones that show up on eBay all the time that people make it look like they're selling the real ones and then they do the bait and switch. So, and those were good. And I did the tested on, or the video on tested, and showed you the differences of how I modify and what I do different. And tried to give people, I've made many tutorials that got taken down from YouTube just because of a copyright infringement. I don't know if it was the Nike logo or because of their replicas, or I used some little snippets of music. But anyways, they were taken down. Some of them are still up there. But it was always kind of like a thing for me that I wanted people to enjoy the shoe, be able to do it themselves if they had the ability to do it, because the cost really isn't that great to modify them, but it's really more the skill, because you'd have some things you can, they're difficult to do. It's electronics, it's gluing and tearing apart a shoe that's also $230 to $400 depending on where you get it. So a lot of people were very reluctant. There's people that massacred their shoes. So it's been a long journey, and it was until recently that a picture started showing up about these V3s, that a guy in China, David, bought a pair of real Nikes, and I believe he probably had them scanned. I don't think they disassembled them. I hope not, but they may have, because I haven't seen them appear since. But seems that subsequently he had them scanned and now is having a factory make the V3s. And again, I was skeptical when I'd see them because I was like, gosh, they really look too good to be true. At some points I thought it was just a real shoe, but I know the shoe well enough that I could see some differences. I was like, okay, this is off, this is off. But to an untrained eye or someone who just has seen the shoe a few times, you wouldn't even know it. So as you know, I'm a big fan of the RPF. I always point at people over to the Replica Prop Forum because that's kind of where I started my love of props, as you see from my office. And there's my modified V2s that have the soles yellowing. So even with things like that, where I would have to replace the soles eventually because they yellow, and there's a guy, Mark, in Australia that makes the soles, and they're clear and they're good, but they're not perfect. So it's kind of like that search for perfection and the perfect shoe. And honestly, I'm not a sneakerhead. I hate Yeezys. I could care less about Jordans, although Jordan 7s are one of my favorite shoes. But I could care less about shoes, except for the Mags, just because they're from Back to the Future, and I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. So I always wanted those shoes ever since 1989, and finally have the real ones, but honestly, I'd never wear them out. I mean, it's just, I would just never do it. I know people do, and they have bigger balls than me. But to me, it was more just to have the shoe in my case or wear it every so often to a Back to the Future event. Honestly, I don't even like wearing them out to Target or something like that because people want to stop you, they want to ask you questions, and more often than not, people would say, "God, are those the real ones?" And at times you just want to go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," just so people don't really ask so many questions, and then they want you to modify theirs and where can I get them, and just goes into this whole thing. So since I own the originals, I would normally say, no, these are modified replicas, but I have the originals. And but so anyways, so getting back to the V3s. So it was a rumor for a while, for a year, probably at least a year and a half, and then we saw these pictures come out, and I saw them, and I researched them, and I was asking around, who's this guy David? Is he reputable? And everyone's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a huge, very reputable guy in the sneakerhead world. He did Yeezys, and I guess made them almost identical. So, and that's pretty respectable to do, because I guess he has either a shop in China, or he knows people that can manufacture these. And knowing the real mags and how intricate they are and how different the materials are, and the midsole being spongy and not rubber, and so many different things about the shoes, I was kind of skeptical that they could get them right. However, a friend of mine on the RPF got a pair. Actually, we were all kind of waiting with bated breath if they were even going to show up, and they did. And he got them, and he brought them to a prop party that I throw every year up in Hollywood. And he brought them, and I brought my real ones to compare them, because I was still skeptical until I could see them. I have them because they were too big for him, and I bought them from him. And I was going to now show you guys the review on those. It's a long intro to a review, but I wanted to kind of say what I had to say, just because a lot of people always ask me the questions. So instead of writing down in the questions below, because I never answer the comments usually. So anyways, I'm going to show you guys now the shoes, the review. Okay, here we go. So these are my old V3s modded with a clear sole. Kick around these. They are worn, they are beat. Still will always hold a place in my heart. But this is the original 2011. These are the V3s. The box is virtually identical. It's a slightly different yellow, maybe a little bit more on the orange gold side, but just, I mean, you'd have to have them side by side to even notice. Size, shape, everything is identical. This does have the magnetic flap, just like the real one. I think this might be just a little bit better, but honestly, you would never tell. So, so mine are size 10, the real ones. These are size 10.5, but they used to be size 8. So they just obviously had one sticker that they didn't replicate the number for. And sorry, this keeps going out of focus. I'll try to focus this in a second here. Come on. Anyway, all right, here we go. So here is the 2011s, and here are the V3s. So they are absolutely amazing. There are some differences, which I'm going to point out, but in all honesty, they just knocked this out of the park, and I am blown away. So let me pull these out, show you a little bit of the differences. Okay, let me get these side by side. Now the fabric is different. It doesn't show up on camera as much as it does in person, but these are a little bit more ribbed than the originals. The fabric color, these are a little bit more of a greenish gray with a slightly more of a sheen to it. The laces are almost identical. The ribbing they got down, the feel is identical. The weight is identical. The height is almost identical, and actually the replicas are slightly taller. These are a little bit more puffy, and the tongue is a lot taller, which a lot of people like. Because even on these, the tongue is tiny, and it's fabric, and they actually got the either pleather or leather or whatever they used. They replicated the poster exactly. I mean, it is. If I swapped them, I would never even be able to tell. Every one of the replicas is number 321. My pair, my original pair, is 702. So this has the placard in it and stuff, and this actually comes with a placard. It's in there somewhere. I'll find it in a second, but it's they did a good job in replicating that as well. Yeah, I'll put that in a little bit. So the charger, it comes in the white box. It's different, similar, but just a different style. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't really matter at all. They do charge just like the original ones. And the biggest difference, obviously, other than the fabric, is the EL is slightly dimmer. And I'll turn them on in just a second. But the midsole, the paint is identical, although this is in person slightly darker, just very slightly. It might just be my pair. Maybe they're different on other pairs. But the midsole, this is a very spongy material that they used, and it's the same. It is identical. If I say identical or the same too much, sorry. It's just they're quite amazing. Now the profile of them, they do have the stuffing in the toe, so I guess this would maybe fall a little bit more if you took that out and just had your feet in it. The soles of the original are icy. They have a slight blue tint to them. You always see it kind of like mainly like right in there. The V3s in person, they are I mean, they look white. They're mainly white. There's probably a very little bit of blue in there. I don't know if they add that. Sometimes they add that to protect for UV. I don't know if these are going to yellow over time, but it'll be interesting to see. The bottom of the shoe is kind of interesting because it's pretty close. I mean, it's identical, but there are like some probably factory defects, like that one's sticks up in the middle a little bit more, but it's the pyramid on the bottom, just like the originals, and then transition into the squares, the grid pattern. The heel is perfect. The ankle bubble is similar. It's the same shape. It's slightly more misted or frosted. So you can see the real ones you can see the lights, and that one you can't. The funny thing is when I turn the lights on the shoes, the LEDs on the V3s are much brighter, but the EL is dimmer than these. These are much more pronounced, separate colors, and these are a lot brighter. So I'm going to turn on the lights right now. Oh, and the button, same place, almost identical button, just like that. So I don't know if you can tell how it's going to show up on camera, but you can see that these are green, yellow, red. This on camera shows up as like a blur of reddish orange, but in person they're distinct, just more diffused. So I don't know if I get in there. Yeah, there you go. Kind of. You can see that they are the correct LEDs, and you can see that there's 4 per row, just like these. But I always like how those flicker on the camera. Now in person, Yeah, the EL is definitely, it's dimmer. It may not show up, but you can always tell like on EL if it's a little bit more of a white, then it's brighter. It just in person they look almost identical. Um, the strap is a little bit dimmer on this. Could be just the inverter that they chose, but the colors are almost identical. I would say this is a little bit more turquoise, then this is a little bit more green. Again, it probably doesn't show up on camera just because of the way things are captured on the video. It's not that high quality. I'm just using my iPhone. Again, the button is the same. You can hear it. It's a very, very, very tiny, tiny, tiny button. Let's see. The strap. Sorry for my shitty videoing. I'm trying to do this. The strap. They even have the little plastic piece. And the way they added that is when you take it out and you try to feed this back through, if you didn't have this plastic piece, it would probably start to fray the ends of the strap. It would probably start to come apart. They probably tested that and then they realized that they needed a little piece in there, just like they do on the real ones. I'm even surprised they did that on the replicas. But, I mean, ankle buckle, and this is all the parts that I call it. I don't know what the actual term is for these, but it is pretty close. Same material. Again, this is a spongy and it's glued to the shoe just like this is. The reason they glued it is because there's actually electronics in here. This is where the charge port is, under here. And then it's under here as well. It's a little bit more difficult to get to. And I honestly, if you guys get any of these, be very careful because that will break. Just like on the real ones, they're very fidgety and like people have snapped them up, pushed them all in, jacked them up. They can't charge them. So if you want to break $600 pair of shoes, go be my guest and start jamming it up in there. You have to be very careful. I took mine very gingerly and like tried to figure out exactly where it was. And I even used a headlamp to get up in there to make sure I was doing it right. But again, let's see, I'll take off the strap. I'm doing this with one hand, so bear with me. And these are kind of fresh out of the box. I've put these on one time. So, back of the strap. It feels identical. I'm sure Nike used better materials than these, but if you kind of gangster wannabes want to wear without the strap, which I don't understand why people do that. I guess because Kanye did it or someone. So if you want to look like that, then go ahead. I can tell you that just in general, these shoes are not comfortable. I mean, down here, they're comfortable. Up here, they rub on your leg like nobody's business. So when you're wearing them, even my V3s, which are a little bit more flexible, these are super, super rigid. They will start to rub on your shin, and that's why when people tuck in their pants, they get all rubbed up in here with the jean color. Let me show you this. What do they call it? The loop pull or the finger pull. Identical. I mean, there are probably minor flaws. Okay, so this is one of the biggest ones. See how that's a 2-wire thing? You can actually see it. On the real one, you can kind of, sometimes you can see it, but it's more flat wire in there. You can kind of see it right there. Right in the center, there's like a very, very faint, it's like a thinner wire. So they just used that, which again, that does not bother me so much just because they did everything else perfectly. And that might be even a little bit more robust than this, because this will break if you mess with it too much. And again, that's why I also don't like to have the strap hanging like this, because the more tension you put on it, that's EL, it's very fragile even though it's flexible. So I personally don't like having it sit like that. It kind of bugs me. And that's why the people who have done this always come to me and say, hey, my lights don't work. And it's because you don't realize they're very fragile. Other than that, I gotta say, you know, it's unbelievable. And I'm blown away, and I hope that they don't stop making these. I hope I can get a few more pair, and that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I can upload all this. Cheers.